Hi, I'm Kayla.
And I'm Madhav, and this is Crash Course World History.
Today we're going to be talking about revolutions in the arts.
Towards the end of the 18th century, three different types of art forms emerged due to various types of pressure from society: Romanticism, Realism, and Impressionism.
The first to emerge was Romanticism, which heavily focused on the ideals of emotion and love for nature. This contrasted the ideals of the Enlightenment, which was about reason and society.
The Romantic movement, however, was inspired by nationalism, a key aspect in society during this time.
Aside from emotion and the beauty of nature, Romanticism was also horrifying, grotesque, mysterious, and supernatural, which seems kind of contradictory to me.
Ideas of combining the natural and supernatural inspired the Gothic novel Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. And do you know what Frankenstein's second job was? He was a bodybuilder.
And she was married to Percy Bysshe Shelley, who was a poet in the Romantic era, along with Lord Byron and John Keats, who wrote about heroism and the beauty of nature.
Along with heroism, Romanticism included themes of passion and love. It valued the common folk, traditional music, and stories, and encouraged ideals of democracy. Hey, do you know that one movie about the girl with the really long hair?
Tangled? Yeah.
Well, the original story, Rapunzel, along with stories like Hansel and Gretel and the Sleeping Beauty, originated from a group of German fairy tales written by Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm, who were also writers of the Romantic era.
They also created a basic dictionary and a grammar guide for the German language.
They created these things in order to worship the German spirit. This was way before Germany was united into a single country.
And Victor Hugo created Les Mis, which has been turned into a worldwide sensation with a play adaptation. Moving on. Conveying deep emotion was a common thread through Romantic art. The music during this time changed from tight and formal to expressive and nationalistic music.
This music became a significant part of the middle class life, and one of the biggest composers, Ludwig van Beethoven, who we all know suffered a hearing disability, and his Ninth Symphony emphasized the human spirit. Hey, do you know what Beethoven's doing now? Decomposing.
Some composers even use literature as their inspiration, like how Felix Mendelssohn used Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream as his.
Now we'll move on to Realism, which was the main art form in the mid-19th century. Its popularity was mainly caused because of the industrialization of Europe and the harsh working and living conditions of the middle class during this time.
The goal of realism is to show the audience of what life really is and not how life should be, which is why it always depicted the struggles of the working class and the struggles for power, which is just a little bit depressing to me.
Well, during this time, the first photographs were invented to capture realistic depictions of what was actually happening. These were called daguerreotypes and were named after its inventor, Louis Daguerre.
I believe there was also another type of photography called the Talbot process, which gained popularity because it was mass distributed and it was the first available to the public.
There was also massive improvements in the field of motion studies. Edward Muybridge was one of the people who studied a lot in this field. Scientists used these pictures to study time and motion.
So what exactly happened in these studies were that scientists were able to take pictures of an object in motion, and then they ended up with a series of pictures. Then they were able to study the movement of an object at any given time, looking at the pictures that were taken.
Despite these great inventions, people soon moved on to a new art form called Impressionism, which is exactly like it sounds, impressions. Impressions of the events by the people who are creating or drawing them.
These Impressionists held a more positive outlook on life in Europe during this time. Therefore, they used bright and pure colors in their artwork.
Artists such as Claude Monet, Edgar Degas, and Vincent van Gogh illustrated a wealthy middle class, enjoying their lives in halls, theaters, and cafes. What was Vincent van Gogh's favorite swimming technique? Brushstroke.
The composers of this time used different music structures, combinations of instruments, and patterns of tones to create impressions of environments and atmospheres, just like what Maurice Ravel and Claude Debussy did in their music.
They were able to create impressions of flashing lights or an ocean view with the new musical structures and instrumental combinations.
As you can see, there have been many advancements and revolutions during this time periods for the arts, which have greatly influenced our lives today.
In the next episode, we are going to be discussing the beginnings of industrialization.
Thanks for joining us on Crash Course World History, but it looks like we have to Van Gogh.